Today on BFCS, we're going to be talking about starter cultures. This is my starter culture that has been around for almost 3 years now. This one is 100% rye flour. You can do this with any kind of flour, really. Sure, bread flour and rye flour is what's usually recommended, but I have found that my regular rye flour gives me the flavor that I want, and it's really easy to maintain. To get this started, it takes 7 to 10 days. What you need to do is take your whatever flour you want to use. You need to add that to a container. Glass is preferred. I use a ball jar. I usually start it off at 25 grams. And then what you're going to do is add the same weight in water. So you have your flour, and then you're going to add just regular tap water is fine, but the same weight. So if you have 25 grams of the flour, you're going to add 25 grams of the water. And then you take that mixture and you're going to stir it. Make sure everything is incorporated nice and wet all around. Get all the stuff on the bottom, everything. And then you're going to take this and let it sit at room temperature for 1 day. 24 hours. Let it sit out on the counter. Don't put it in the fridge. Just let it sit. Nothing's going to happen the first few days. After a couple days, you might start to see bubbling, but it'll take 5 to 10 days for it to actually become a usable starter. This mixture is my usable starter. It's very, very bubbly. See how the bubble is on the side? I just used some of it, so it's kind of smushed down. But it's what I started with is the same process. Just take the water and the flour, let it sit. You let it sit for 24 hours, and then you're going to repeat it. You're going to take the flour and water, mix it together, but then you're going to take the same weight as the flour and water. So if you're using 25 grams of flour, you're going to use 25 grams of the water, and then you're going to take 25 grams of the old mix that you have and add it to the container. So all 3 things in the container, and then let it sit out and go another 24 hours. And you're going to repeat that until you get a starter that's usable. The minute this is ready, 7 to 10 days, you can start making bread. Whenever you make bread, you don't want to use all of your starter. So make sure there's enough for your bread and then a little bit left over so you can keep your culture going. That's how these things get years, decades, centuries old. Bakeries that are really old usually have starters that they started 100 years ago. But it's a really great and easy way to get your sourdough going that doesn't use any instant yeast or anything like that. What you need for sourdough is salt, water, and flour. As far as equipment goes, you'll need a scale and a bowl. Strictly bread flour. Now what you can do is mix up your flour varieties. I like to use a lot of rye in my sourdough, but for today's purposes, we're just going to stick with the basics. So in this bowl, we've taken the 834 grams of water and added it to the 1,042 grams of bread flour. Now, you want to let this sit for at least an hour. It's called auto-leasing. It's going to develop the gluten, make it easier to work with. After that, you're going to take your starter and you're going to add it to the bread and flour, or the water flour mixture. Spoon. So today we're adding, it's 10% of our starter culture. You have to do everything by weight when it comes to bread because of your hydration percentage. This bread's in 80%. You can go higher, you can go lower. The lower the hydration is, the easier it's going to be to work with. So we're going to take that, put it on our scale, zero out our scale. We're going to add 105 grams of our starter. There we go. 105 grams in there. This over here. So you're going to let this mixture sit for half an hour. Before you add any salt or any flavorings like that, you're going to want to let this, you're going to mix it and then let it come together for a half hour. Salt inhibits yeast. It stops it from growing and making your bread delicious. So let it sit for a half hour and then come back to it, and then we're going to add the rest of the flavoring. Let it sit for half an hour. Now we're gonna add our salt. It's gonna be a 2% salt to this mixture. The overall weight of this is 2,000 grams. That's enough for 2 loaves, big loaves. You can always go smaller. You can make 1 loaf. You can make more loaves. You can make 7 or 8 loaves. Just all you have to do is change the recipe and either increase it or decrease it. Now for mine, I add 15 grams of salt, which isn't enough. It should be 21 grams of salt, but I like to add everything but the bagel seasoning to mine. This has salt content, so you want to lower your salt content when you add something that contains salt. So in goes the 15 grams of salt, and then for me, this is going to be to flavor, whatever you like. For 2 loaves, 2,000 grams loaf, 2 kilo loaves, I add half a bottle. Just about, doesn't need to be measured. It's all about how you like it. So we take that, we mix it up. Looks pretty good. Gluten's pretty good and developed, so it's not sticking to my hands. There might be a little bit of sticking, but that's not bad. It's good. So this is a pretty easy dough to work with. When you increase your hydration, you're making it so that it's looser and a little bit more sticky, and it gets harder to work with. I don't recommend it for people that are just starting out on sourdough. Definitely take your time and start with a lower hydration. You get a nicer oven spring, and it will be much easier for you to handle. So once you get that all mixed in and looking good, we're going to take that mixture. I like to add it to something that I can see. You could always leave it in the bowl as long as you let it come up about 80%. Now, you don't want it to double. You want it to come up about 80%. But I like to visually see it, and I'll mark it out with a piece of tape just so I know where it's at. Add about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Take that mixture and move it around the bottom, get it all over the sides to where the bread's gonna be. This is also adding flavor. That is flavor, so add a little bit more if you'd like to. I like to stick with it kind of low on olive oil. But once that's all done, take this mix and we're going to put it in here. I'm going to grab a dough scraper. Now these will sometimes come with the baton. And baton is this. It's a little wicker basket that we're going to use to take that dough mixture and proof it. But you're going to take it, scrape out the sides, get everything out, and into the container. Okay. All that. So we have it in there, and now we're going to let this sit. Make sure the olive oil is on the side. This is a no-knead sourdough, so we are not going to knead this. We're going to do what's called a stretch and fold. So in 45 minutes, I'm going to come back and show you how to stretch and fold this, and then we're going to repeat that process for a couple. I'll do 4 stretch and folds. You can do 3 to 4, and then you'll see it'll start to double, or it'll start to grow in size, and then we'll go from there. So our first 40-minute timer went up, 45-minute timer went up. So we're gonna start our stretch and folds. For this, you're gonna wanna wet your hands. The wet hands helps it from sticking to you. So you're gonna come in on the sides, pull up, wait till it comes off, then fold it down. Repeat on all the sides. So you want to do one side across and then come to the other side and then across. You basically want to make it like a little package. Up, and then tuck that in, and then you're good to go. And then you're going to want to wait another 45 minutes for your next stretch and fold. Again, we're going to do that 3 to 4 times. You want to see where it's at on the development process. So as the yeast starts to grow, it'll start to rise, and you want it to come up about 80% is what you're looking for. And then we're gonna put it in batons into the fridge. But we'll keep going with the stretch and folds. So I'll be back in 45. Okay, so we're back for stretch and fold 2. It's been 45 minutes. We're gonna do the same thing. Wet your hands. You don't want to add any water content, so not too much water, but just enough to kind of coat your hands, then come back in, stretch and fold again. This one, we're going to do 1 stretch, and then some of it's still stuck to the side, so we're going to go back in, and we're going to grab it again, get it off the sides, come down. Same thing on here, still stuck on there, and then you're going to come back in. This is our last stretch and fold, and then we're on to the rest time for the fermentation. So we're gonna let it rise all the way. So once again, get them paws wet, and we're gonna stretch and fold just like last time. 1, 2, 1, 2. Fold, fold. So now we're gonna let this sit. We don't need to do any more stretching and folding. So what I do is when I first get this going, I'll mark off where this actually lays, like it lays flat. And then as soon as it gets to not doubling in size, but close to doubling in size, it'll be ready to pull out, and then we can laminate, do our final shaping, and then put it into a baton that will go into the refrigerator overnight, and then tomorrow we're ready to bake. So we now have a dough that has risen enough for us to put away. We're going to take this and break this down into 2 loaves. You can take them and actually weigh them out. I'm not gonna worry about it. I don't care if they're 2 sizes or not. We're just making them for here. So take them, and you can lightly flour your surface and scrape it out onto your work surface. Make sure you get everything out as best you can. Okay. So I'm going to eyeball it half and half. That's what we're going for. Right about there. Take them, break them apart. Make sure you cut them. And kind of move them a little bit farther apart from each other. And at this stage, you can wet your hands again, just to keep it from sticking. Makes it easier, but we're going to go over lamination. This is the final shaping of the dough. If you wanted to add any flavorings, like such as seeds or anything, any kind of seed that you want to add right now, this would be the time that you would do it. So take it, stretch it. You don't want to go too hard, too far. And then we're going to take it, fold, this side over, this side over, again, coming in together and pinching them together just so they stay all the way to the end. Make sure they stay. And then we're going to come all the way through and roll. Now if you have anything that sticks to it, you always want to just take it and add it back to the dough. Any big bubbles you want to pop, like this one over here, it'll happen on this stage when you're laminating. Just make sure you pop them. It'll just bubble up really hard on your final bake, and you don't really want that. And create a big air pocket. So you're going to take your hands and you're going to, at the edge of the dough, fold, and then using your surface, roll. Fold, using your surface, roll. And what you're looking for is to get this tight, taut top. Just like that. Now take your baton, you can do this in a bowl, but I suggest ordering this because it'll come with this, a liner, it'll come with this and a liner, and the liner makes it easier for when you're taking it out. You don't have to worry about it sticking to the actual baton. So take it and then take a light dusting of flour. Again, you can do it with that, but I like the design it leaves when I don't use it. And then you want to take this dough and you want to put it seam side up. So all the separation here on top, take it, make sure you pinch it together. You don't want this coming apart. You just want it to stay like that. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then we're going to take a little bit more flour, come around the edge, just so we don't have anything that could stick. A little on the top, good to go. Do the same process again for this other loaf. And it's going to be a little bit stuck on there since it's been sitting. So I suggest moving it just a little bit and then coming through, stretching. Right through, come over, 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 fold. Roll, of this. Try and put it on the seam side so it can get rolled under. It's not sitting on top. Done. Seam side up. Make sure they're sticking together. A little sprinkle on the side. Now we're going to take this and cover this and put it in the fridge. You could do that with either a towel most people will have these in their house, so a towel is the preferred method. Just cover it, wrap it up, and throw it in the fridge. I've been doing this a long time now, and the thing that works best is these shower caps.
These shower caps.
So the shower caps work the best. You can get the reusable ones, or you can get the plastic disposable ones. It's up to you. These ones come with a fun little liner. But just make sure it's loose on top and that you have most of the other stuff covered. You don't want it touching the dough because it will stick to the dough. Not if you have it really well floured, but you don't want it to do that. And it's going to rise a little bit, so make sure it's just a little bit higher than the bowl. That, and then it goes in the fridge, and then tomorrow we'll be ready to bake.
God.
Hi, welcome. So today we're going to finish up the bread. To make it less complicated for you, so you don't have to worry about steaming an oven or doing anything crazy like that, I use Dutch ovens. These will make sure that you're basically cooking in a smaller environment so that the steam can come up and around the bread. Make sure you get the nice oven rise that you want and that the crust doesn't start forming right away. So these are just Amazon buys. You can get them for like $15 on Amazon. But we're going to preheat our oven to 500, which I think all home ovens will go to. But we're going to get it to 500. Start preheating. You want to do it an hour ahead of time. But you're going to take these and you're going to stick them in as well. So you want them hot as well. We're going to wait for that to heat up. Break out the bread. Show you how to cut the bread. We're also going to be using parchment paper, so we're going to cut some parchment paper. And then we're going to be baking the bread at 500 for 20 minutes and then 450 for another 20. So we cut the parchment paper to fit the bottom of the pan and to cover most of the bread. We're going to put it over the bread and then put our hand over here. And then I do this over the sink just so I don't get flour everywhere. And then it will not come out right away, but as long as you give it a second, you don't want to jostle this around or like move it around too much. You'll be punching air out of the bread, but it'll come out like that. And then that one's ready. And we got our other loaf, which is definitely a little bit bigger, but it's fine. Same thing over. And a little bit of it is going to be stuck if you didn't use your liner, which is fine as long as you just let gravity do the work for you, and it'll come out like that. And then we're back, and then we're going to pull these pots out. Hot pots. Ugh. And we're going to cut this. This is called a lamb. It's a blade specifically made for cutting bread. It's a little razor blade. Some of these batons that you buy will come with disposable plastic one, but they're like cheap and you can find them on Amazon. But you're gonna take it, here, come in, get a shot of this. Hold it at an angle and come across in a very decisive manner. You want to come into this with confidence. You want to be able to come in and immediately cut it. See how I messed it up there? But if you wait too long, it'll stick to the knife and then you'll have some issues. But just come in as fast as you can, just like that. And then we're going into the pot. So load it in. Oh yeah. Into the pot, cover them up, and then we'll come back in 20 minutes. Alexa, put them in the oven for 20 minutes and then come back to them. And we're gonna pull that lid off and then lower our oven to 450 degrees and give them another 20 minutes about. Okay, so it's been 20 minutes. We're gonna take this, we're gonna turn it down, 450, pop it open, and then we're gonna take these lids off. Should see a nice oven spring. Look at them loaves. Nice and puffed up, and then back in, and for another 20 minutes. Okay. So it's been in for 40 minutes now, and we're gonna see how it looks. If it ain't ready, we're gonna let it go for another 5 minutes. But if it is, we're gonna go. Get the close-up shot. Whoa, 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 wee, whoa, 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 yes. So, it's ready. These need to be set on a wire rack or something like that, just so the bottom doesn't get soft and soggy. So when you're ready to take them out, pop it out. And they need to go on a wire rack. Paper off. That can go in the garbage. And then this bad boy can go to set. Sit on a rack for a little bit. Let it cool down. So you should let these sit for about an hour. The longer you let sourdough sit, the better it's going to be. But it's ready to go. Enjoy.